I'm Sarah, if I haven't met you yet. I'm the founder of Simply. We, as you know, are a place of empowerment, kindness, and connection. So please make sure that you meet everyone here today. It's no mean girls. We are all about just meeting one another, and I started it because I wanted a really empowering place for people to come and network within the industry. I was lucky enough to have a sister that helped me get my foot in the door, but not so many people are that lucky, and I really wanted a place to make those handshakes happen and really help you get your foot in the door of the industry and network on so many different levels. So don't be shy. Meet your neighbor, talk to everyone. I want everyone to leave here with at least 10 new relationships. So without further ado, I'm gonna start it off. We have a jam schedule, as I mentioned. In here are all the panels, and then in there are gonna be all the breakout sessions. So we are starting off with Anne-Elise, who's gonna come up. She is with NYLON, who is powering today. And she's going to introduce our first keynote, which I'm very excited about. So thank you so much for being here again, and hope to meet you all throughout the day.
Hi guys. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here this morning. This is awesome. I know everyone had to wake up early on a Saturday, which is not the most fun thing in the world. So thank you so much. And I'm so excited to introduce Bethany. We're so excited to have her here. She flew in all the way from LA to be here with us. So thank you so much, Bethany.
It's been a moment since I wore heels. Should we hear?
Yeah, sure. It's always scary to go upstairs in heels.
Yeah. Hi.
So how many of you guys here have seen Bethany's YouTube videos? Okay, awesome.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Bethany, you definitely don't need an introduction. I mean, you've amassed 10.5 million subscribers on YouTube. You've been on the Ellen Show. You've done Dancing with the Stars. You've created your own line for Aeropostale. You've written your own book. And most importantly, I think you've really created a space for positivity online, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So tell us about that early stage. Why YouTube?
Why YouTube? I started my YouTube channel when I was 13 years old, and I got into it because I was always really shy growing up, and I was also cyberbullied in middle school. And this was kind of my first time being bullied in any way. And also, it's 12 years old, that's kind of before you start looking at yourself in that way and kind of comparing yourself to other people. And so I had this experience where people at school created this fake page of me online and were commenting on my physical appearance, my weight and all of these things. And being 12, I never thought of my body like that before, and I never compared myself to other people. I just never thought of that. And so that was kind of the moment that marked where I started being a little self-conscious, and already being a shy girl, I became even more shy, and it kind of led me into anxiety and all of these different things. And then I discovered YouTube, which is... in the moment, it's what? YouTube got you out of that? But it really did. YouTube became my outlet to start posting videos and make videos about what I enjoyed. And so I started with doing beauty and fashion stuff, and then it kind of just kept evolving. But I think more than anything, regardless of what I make videos about, it has just been this incredible platform for me to really express myself and grow as a creative person. Yeah. And I definitely didn't intend on anything happening. I didn't think that I would still be doing it almost 10 years later. And so the fact that just starting my YouTube channel that day led to so many incredible opportunities and really giving me the opportunity to chase my dreams is still unbelievable to me. And I think it just shows that sometimes we're in difficult situations and we don't realize what it's leading to in the moment, because when I was going through that at the time, more than anything, I just wanted it to go away. I was like, why is this happening to me? I don't want this. I don't like this. What did I do to deserve this? And then I realized that it was actually a blessing in disguise and really gave me the opportunity to change my life for the better. So it changed my perspective on struggles and challenges. And now when something challenging comes into my life, it's although sometimes things, are difficult and you're not gonna be like, woo, this sucks, like awesome. But it definitely makes me a little excited of like, how can I grow from this challenge? Like, what is this going to teach me? What lesson am I going to learn from this difficult thing that just came into my life?
Yeah, 100%. So talk to us when you're about like 2-3 years into YouTube. So you've gotten a hang of things. If you had to go back and talk to yourself at that stage, what would you tell yourself?
Ooh, 2-3 years into it. I would tell myself, because I think after being in it for 2 to 3 years, this is when I kind of started experiencing a lot of the self-doubt as a creator, where it's like, how do I keep it fresh? How do I keep it interesting? Because also when I got into YouTube, there weren't as many people on the platform, and as years went by, more and more people are joining, and so it is a struggle of like, how do I remain creative, and how do I keep my content fresh and exciting? And I think that I would stress a little too much about that back then. So I think I would just tell myself to, just focus on what makes me happy and make the stuff that I really enjoy making. I think it's a balance of knowing what your audience wants to see and also making sure that you are doing what fulfills you creatively. Because if you're just making stuff that people want to see and neglecting your own passions, after a while, you'll just realize like, oh, I'm not really happy doing this.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that also bled into other areas at that time too, because like I said, I got into YouTube when I was 13. Yeah. Now I'm 22, and so I basically grew up online. So I grew up with people criticizing me. And so that's also been a struggle too, of like, I was 13 now, and now I'm growing up, so people are like, you've changed, and I'm like, I know. So that too, it's like when I was in 3 years, so I was like 16, and so one of the struggles I had was like with body image, and feeling like I needed to look a certain way because I was on social media and because so many people were watching my videos. I wanted to make sure that I had a certain look, and with society, especially on social media, although beautiful things come from social media and many people are able to build brands, along with it also comes the negative side of things, where you feel like the comparison and you see like people's Instagrams, which are like just the highlights of everybody's lives. We tend to not show like the not so beautiful moments, and so around that time was when I was like comparing myself to other people physically and like, oh, I need to look this way and that way, and I need to have this presence online to be accepted. And then, like I said, after a while, I was like, wait, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I enjoy doing. So I kind of had to snap myself out of that. So I think just staying true to yourself and making the content that you want is the best way to stay motivated doing it, because then you're really fulfilled and you really, really enjoy it. And it doesn't feel so much like a chore or like a job.
Yeah. So was there a certain point, though, when your mentality shifted and you were like, this is my job now? Like, this is what I'm going to do? And did that affect at all, like, your day-to-day and making content?
At first, I didn't want to accept it because I got into it as a hobby, and I really didn't think it would turn into a career. And so when I started getting, like, business emails and people are like, do you have a manager? I'm just like, no, this is not that. And I was like almost ashamed of the fact that it was a job now. Whereas now it's like, I embrace that. I think it's amazing if we can do what we love for a living. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to put my crazy ideas into videos and put them out there. And that's what I get to call work. Like, that is insane. Like, that's so amazing. So I don't know exactly when the shift, maybe a couple years into it, is when it started becoming more of a business. And I think at first it was a little scary, and then I've just learned to really embrace the fact that I can do what I love.
Yeah. And so tell us, what does a typical shooting week look for you like nowadays?
It kind of depends, because the videos that I post, they can be super simple lifestyle stuff, like, makeup videos or hair or fashion. And then also, that's what I love about YouTube and my channel, is that I started with makeup, and then I just branched out into all of these different areas, and now I'm able to make videos about fashion or even like comedy things. Like, I do like little skits now too, and if I just have a crazy idea, I can do that. So I just come up with the concept, and then shooting could honestly take a few hours to a few days or a few weeks. It really just depends what the video is. And then editing can take, again, like, it really depends on the video. But yeah, I think overall, just I have a lot of creative freedom to do kind of whatever videos I want.
Yeah.
And also it led into things that aren't even videos, like opportunities outside of YouTube, like being a clothing designer, which I never thought would happen either.
Yeah.
Getting to work with Aeropostale for a few years and design my own clothing line was crazy as well. And I also incorporated that into the videos.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. And that's what I love about it, is I can kind of make it up as I go.
So how far out, though, are you planning your content?
Normally, like, I would say the most maybe a month ahead.
Okay.
Just because I still like to make sure that what I'm posting is relevant to me in the moment.
Yeah.
Because I think me as a viewer, when I'm watching somebody, that's what I like. I like knowing that it's like fresh and it's kind of more in the moment of what they're feeling and experiencing right now. So I do a lot of seasonal stuff, like holiday videos and like, you know, whatever the season is, or current events. And
Really
I would say
beautiful fall videos always.
thank you. Fall's my favorite season. So, yeah, so I would say I like to keep it very current to, you know, what's happening right now.
So have you, I mean, now that there's this like huge YouTuber community around everything that you guys do, is there a YouTuber that you've learned a lot from or worked with closely or that's given you really good advice throughout the years?
Gosh, I don't know if there's one specific person. I think just the YouTube community in general, at least the people that I met and the YouTubers that I'm friends with, they're all very genuine, real people. And I think we all get it, because being a YouTuber is a very different job, because we're not just in the videos. We're not just like the actor or the personality in the videos, but we're also learning to edit and film and direct and write. And so you play a lot of rules in one. I was teaching myself how to edit at 13 on Windows Movie Maker.
That's awesome.
I worked my way up slowly. But I think that's one of the fascinating things about being a creator on social media, is that most of us really do. Like, we know how to edit to an extent. We know how to film. We know how to do all of those things. And so I think I just admire the YouTube community so much, because I understand how tough it can be, and like the long hours. And it's just a very, you know, and I think any creative job, you're involved in it emotionally. Your emotions are attached to it, because it's, you know, a representation of you.
Yeah. And what do you think brands need to know about working with YouTubers? Because now brands are so looking for every opportunity to kind of get involved with you guys, since you guys are storytellers and content creators, and they're looking to align with that. From your experience working with brands, what do you think they should know about you guys?
For brands wanting to work with creators, I think definitely trusting the creator that you want to work with, because we know our audience so well. And the YouTube creator with their audience, it's such a personal relationship. It's like they feel like they're friends. Like when I go online and I talk to my viewers, it honestly feels like they're best friends, because we show so much of our lives, especially if it's like vlogging or, you know, just more personal videos. It's like they're very in tune, and so they know if you're not being honest, or if you are just talking about a product just to talk about it. And so I think when a brand works with a YouTuber, just giving them the freedom to kind of talk about whatever that product is in the way that they feel is natural for them and works with what they're already doing. Like I mentioned Aeropostale, when I did my clothing brand with them, they were very understanding about it. And I did like a little series that I put at the end of every single one of my videos, because this was my first time designing. I was like 15 or 16, and I was like flying to New York, meeting with like all of these fashion people, and just totally out of my element. I was just like this little girl, like, I'm here to design clothes, just pretending I knew what I was doing. But I documented the whole experience, and I put it at the end of my videos, and I got my audience really involved as I was developing the clothing line. Like, what should the logo be? What should this pattern or print be? Like, I need your help. I got them very involved. And so by the time we launched the first collection in stores, everyone was so excited that watched my videos, because it wasn't just mine anymore. It wasn't just like, oh, this is Bethany's clothing line. I love to make them a part of everything that I do. And so at that point, it was like we all created this together. And I think that's also really important with social media, is using it in a way that it's a community, letting them into it, letting their voices be heard. And that was like my idea, and the way that I wanted to promote the clothing line. Aeropostale was very understanding of that, and I was so happy with the result, and everybody loved it. So I think things like that, listening to the audience, listening to the creator, and trusting them with the way that they show your product.
Yeah. I mean, you built an incredible community of people who just like love your content and go to it for positivity and inspiration. How much these days are you engaging with the comments or even reading comments?
I still read a lot of them, and I respond to as many as I can. Like every time I upload, I try to take like an hour or two and just respond to comments. I think maintaining that engagement is so important, and also I just really enjoy it, to be honest. Like there are certain people who watch my videos that I remember, and like there's like a group that like they always are like right there as soon as I post. They're like ready, they're waiting for it. So I think for me, it's honestly very encouraging when you just know that people appreciate so much what you're putting out. So I definitely try to respond and read comments as much as I can.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about YouTube for you. How do you approach your Instagram feed these days?
I mean, I just kind of post whatever I love. I think everybody's into the themes. I can't keep a theme, to be honest. It really stresses me out. Can't do it.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't think that there should be this pressure of like it has to look this way. I think it just should represent your personality and in whatever you enjoy. But I do have to say my current Instagram feed is very different from like when I first started Instagram. I think everybody's is.
Yeah.
We're not using the borders anymore. We're not using like all the old filters.
We've like
we've
learned to
improved.
tone
We've
down
all gotten better
Yeah.
at our Instagram feeds.
I know the saturation is like still a problem. I feel like it's so easy to just like crank that up.
you want to crank it all. Oh, I had a moment. I think it was like 2 summers ago.
Yeah.
Just way too much saturation.
Yeah. I agree. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about now. I mean, you've written a book. It's out there. What book has had like a big impact on you for the last like 2-3 years?
Oh, love that. One of my favorite books is actually, it's Motivation Manifesto.
Okay.
I discovered it a couple years ago. I just really love like motivational books.
Yeah.
And that also like inspired me for my book, because my book has a lot of lifestyle stuff in it, which you will see on my channel. But it also has a lot of stuff that I've learned that is more personal. Like I've learned a lot about body image and self-love over the past few years, what it means to love yourself and how to really accept yourself in a society where we're so used to comparing ourselves to other people. And so I just love reading books that kind of just keep me on the right track. And
Yeah.
a lot of it's like stuff we already know, but just sometimes reading it and giving yourself those reminders is really helpful. And it helps me kind of stay focused on what is important instead of getting so distracted by things.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's important. You can know a truth like inside, but to have somebody just say it in a different way can help shift your perspective or give you a different way to look at things.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite lines from your book is when you talk about how when you're stressed, it really is just fear at the core of it, which I love. I love that you just broke it down to that. Can you talk to us about like when you had that realization that stress is just essentially fear? How did that impact how you dealt with like your own fear?
Yeah, I think it's because I never realized how controlled by fear I was. And that is why I was so shy growing up as well. I didn't like meeting new people or making new friends, and it was all because I was afraid. I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of being called stupid. I just couldn't handle not being accepted by other people, to the point that I let it hold me back so much from the things that I wanted. Just like simply in a conversation, I just didn't want to speak up about my own opinion because I was just so afraid of what people would say about it. And I think it's like once you get so used to living in that fear, you almost don't even notice how much it's holding you back. But once you do one thing that is a little out of your comfort zone, it's almost like you become aware of all of the things that you have been letting yourself be held back from because of fear. And so now I try to challenge myself to do little things every day that scare me, even if it's like the smallest thing, like talking to somebody in public, or like, whatever it may be for you, just like challenging yourself to face your fears. And I think understanding as well that fear will be there, because I felt like, okay, then I need to be fearless and not have fear. But it was still there. So I think accepting that you have fear and letting yourself be aware of what it is that you're afraid of, accepting that, and then using that energy to move forward anyway. Being like, yeah, this scares me. Let's do it anyway. Like giving yourself that permission to move forward.
At what phase of your life did you realize that fear was holding you back? And what were some of those early things that you started to do that helped you break out of your comfort zone a little bit?
I don't know exactly, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And I think one of the moments was actually, it was when I was in Greece and I was cliff jumping for the first time. And I just like was so terrified. It took me like 40 minutes to even jump off of the cliff. And I just had this moment where I was like, well, I'm gonna do it or I'm not. Like, there's no reason to waste time thinking about it and thinking about it. I think that planning is great and thinking things through is great, but not to the point that it's like you're so paralyzed by fear that you're just not doing anything. And so after 40 minutes, I just had, something went off where I was like, do I want to do it? Yeah. Well, then I'm going to do it. I think also asking yourself why you want to do things. If something is scaring you, it's like, do you really want to do it? First of all, are you wanting to do it because you want to impress this person, or you think that you're supposed to do it because of these people? Then maybe don't do it. Do you really at your core want to do this thing, whatever it is? Then there's your answer to do it. So that was kind of a very pivotal moment for me, where because it's so, like, when you overcome a fear, you feel so free in that moment. And I remember when I was like swimming in the water, I felt so free, like I could accomplish anything. And I think, and that can happen in so many ways. Like I said, even the smallest thing that scares you, you realize how much you're actually capable of.
Wow. So when you first put the book out, how did that feel? Like, what was that moment like when you're like, okay, it's released to the rest of the world?
Oh, it was scary. It was so scary because I talked about a lot of personal stuff that I don't normally talk about on my YouTube channel. I've opened up about the bullying and all of that stuff, but you know, I got a little deeper into like dating. I got a little deeper into the self-love stuff, the body image stuff, just more personal things. So, and I worked on it for like a little over a year, so it was really like putting my baby out into the world. And it's such a piece of me and just a really good representation of that time in my life. So it was definitely terrifying, but it just felt really good. And then once the book was out, and to hear people's responses and to hear that it helped them and inspired them in some way, like that's the whole reason that we, you know, that we express ourselves through art, is so that we can connect to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if shifting gears a little bit, if someone today came up to you and handed you $1 million and was like, go do whatever you wanted in terms of like creating content, what do you think you would do with that?
For creating content?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I have so many crazy ideas in my head that I feel like I would just, I don't know, maybe like travel the world and like do a whole series on that, because that's something I've always wanted to do. I love traveling because I think it really shifts your perspective. Especially for me living in LA, whenever I travel, I'm like, wow, the rest of the world is not like LA. You know, it's like you really appreciate so many different cultures and the way that people live, and I just have so much respect for just everybody when I travel, and I always feel so refreshed when I come back home. So I would definitely probably do something like that.
And so you're from Northern California, which has a very different vibe from LA. Has moving to LA affected your content at all?
I don't think it's affected my content at all. I think maybe just in the sense that growing up in a really small town, I think if I grew up in LA, I honestly maybe had not started YouTube, because in a small town, like there wasn't so much shit. Like we didn't have a bowling alley, we didn't have like any of that. We had Target, like that was about it. So yeah, I think growing up in a small town inspired me to kind of work with what I had, and that's why I started making videos. So maybe LA, it's just like there's a lot more going on, so it's a little easier to be distracted. Maybe that's probably the only difference. But also, being in LA, there are a lot of other YouTube creators, so it's also inspired me. It's inspired my content. Being around people who do what I do and understand it, it just makes you even more motivated to move forward.
Yeah. And looking back now, in hindsight, what do you think was the key to really building that following, getting to 10.5 million subscribers?
I think there are a lot of things that go into it, because I get the question a lot of like when you're first starting YouTube, kind of how you get started and how you build a following. I mean, like I mentioned before, I had no intention of it happening. And I didn't say, I want to be a YouTube star. I want to be successful on YouTube. I just did it because I loved it. I think understanding that it is difficult at times, so you really have to be passionate about it. Otherwise, you will get burnt out really quickly. And even though I am really passionate about it, I still have gotten burned out. I would say just knowing what you really love to do, knowing what you're passionate about, and sticking with that, because there can be a lot of challenges with it. But being engaged with your audience, opening up to them, being consistent, and just sticking with it, because it has honestly transformed my life in a really beautiful way. And it's also really cool when you do it for so long and to be able to look back at, all of the videos. Mine get really, really awkward. Like I started, it was bad. The first video is still up. And I just am like a shy little, like quiet girl, but it's cool to see like the transformation. So yeah, I would just say engagement, being consistent, staying passionate, and also always trying to improve, and never comparing yourself to other people who are doing what you do, but instead kind of looking back at what you've already done and think, how can I do better than that? How can I do better than my last video? What do I have to work on? And, accepting that sometimes you have things to work on and not get discouraged by that, because I've definitely had my moments where I'm like, oh, I want to be this good at this, but I'm not. And it's really easy to get, again, fearful of not being good enough in your work, to the point that you kind of don't want to move forward to like protect your ego a little bit. But I think accepting that challenge of like, okay, I'm not so good at this yet, but what can I do to get there, to get a little bit closer? Little steps, I've learned, are extremely powerful as well, because sometimes people get started and they're like, oh, I don't have results. I've been doing it for like a few weeks and nothing's happening. That was me when I first started too. I was like, oh, like 2 views, cool. And then it had like 30, and I was like, oh, I realized they were from my mom, because she's watching it too. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, I think little baby steps, and that's also why I said you really have to love it, because it takes patience as well.
I love that you still have those early videos up, because I think for part of your following that is aspiring to be a content creator, like that's amazing for them to get to see how you've evolved and like connect with you even maybe at the age that they are now, when you were at that age too. So that's awesome. Along the process, I mean, you've been doing this for years now. Was there a point when you really hit like a rut and you were really feeling burnt out and you ever considered giving it up?
Yeah, I've definitely had plenty of those moments. I think it's just, when it's just self-doubt. It's when you kind of feel like, I don't know what to do next, or how do I do better? And sometimes I've learned just taking a little break and like stepping away from it helps me. But then I've had to become aware of when I'm taking a break or when I'm staying away from it because I'm afraid. Like I just mentioned, like sometimes I'll have moments where I am too afraid of the failure, so I don't want to try a new idea, or I kind of want to stick to what's safe and what I know works, instead of doing this idea that I've had for so long that I really want to try, but I don't know what the result's going to be, so I'm going to stay away from it. I think that not being afraid of failure is something I've really struggled with, but I think is one of the biggest keys to to stay creative and to stay fulfilled, because that's when I feel excited, is when I'm making progress as a creator, and I only do that when I challenge myself in ways. And now I see failure differently, because whenever I fail, which I don't really believe in failure now anymore, but whenever I fail, I always learn something. So it's like I'm one step closer and I'm getting better. So in reality, it's really not failure. So giving yourself that permission to try that idea that you want to try, or take that risk, even if you're not sure what the result is going to be, you learn so much from it.
Yeah. And in your book, you also talk about getting to a place where you just don't even feel almost embarrassment anymore, which I think is an amazing thing, because it's all just like subjective to your own experience. And so many YouTubers just lay it all out there. And so how did you get to that place? Was it YouTube that really like guided you to getting there, do you think?
Yeah, I think just understanding that everybody has embarrassing moments, and the audience loves that, because when I first started YouTube, I felt like I had to be so perfect, and like you can even watch where it's like I just was, always sitting up straight and I couldn't mess up. and I used to, look, I just messed up. I used to edit out like anything, like any bloopers, like no one would see them.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I started like putting bloopers in and just like keeping in the stuff where I would mess up, and people loved it. And it's because we all relate to it, and we all have those moments. None of us are perfect. I love seeing when people like make little mistakes and can just laugh at themselves because it's real. And so now I do embrace those moments when I like trip or like stumble over my words. It makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what people connect with about YouTubers, influencers, everybody these days, is that they're human beings and they're finally getting to consume content from someone they care about versus just a brand that they might not know the people behind it. So I love that you have just like accepted it, do it, and just put yourself out there. I think that's a beautiful thing. So are you at the point in your career where you can put a video out and you'll know how it's going to perform?
I would say so in certain ways, because I've done a lot of the same videos. Like, that's what I was talking about before, where if you kind of are used to doing a specific, type of video, or for me, it's beauty and fashion, lifestyle stuff, my audience expects that from me, so I know that they're going to like that. But sometimes I'll have these crazy ideas that I've never done before, and I'm not really sure how it's going to work. So, for example, I started getting into singing and music stuff, and so that was one that I was really scared about because I didn't know how my audience was going to respond, but I posted it anyway, and they loved it. So, yeah, I like to stick to what they're used to, but then at the same time, I'll like thread in kind of some new ideas and some things that I'm excited about that might be a little bit different.
And where are you at with singing? Are you thinking about going further down that path?
Yeah, I mean, I like writing a lot, and I love singing. It's something that I've always kind of done behind the scenes, and then I got into it a few years ago and released my first single, which did really well, and I had so much fun doing that. And I feel like ever since then, I just like want to keep going. So we'll see. I mean, I'm always like writing and singing, but I think it's, when I feel like something is right, the right song or the right message that I want to put out there in the moment, I'll just know when the time is right.
Yeah. And do you think you'll write another book?
I would love to write another book. Maybe not right now, just because it takes a lot of time. But yeah, I definitely would love to, because with that book, I was just able to open up so much, and it was really scary kind of putting myself out there in that way. But it was so much fun, and being able to help people in any way that I can is the whole reason that I'm doing this. So I definitely would love to put out another book.
Yeah. And what do you want people to take away from your book right now?
Oh gosh, I think something just as small as like tips on what to wear, and then on a heavier side, like tips on how to love yourself. Like that's what my struggle with the book was, how do I kind of fit all of that into it, because it is like a lifestyle book and a self-help book all in one. But I'm really happy with the way that it turned out, because it's all very seamless. It's just a book about life and all of the different things. There's food, and there's workout things in there, but then there's also more personal stuff. And one of my favorite responses that I've gotten from a lot of people is that it has helped them in a very personal way. It's helped them with self-love. And that's something that I would say in the past few years, I mean, I'm still learning self-love and what that means, but in the past few years, I feel like I've had a lot of breakthroughs, and I was really able to open up about that in a lot of ways. So I think hearing that helps people makes me very happy.
Yeah. So this week I listened to Bethany's book on Audible. It's amazing, by the way, because she reads it. So it's so much fun to like get to hear her story from her perspective, in her voice. And I think the biggest thing for me when I was experiencing it just kept putting me in a good mood. Like, you did such a good job of blending just, all the fun content that you kind of put out on YouTube, but also this whole other like life advice piece that was much deeper than I think you really get on YouTube. So you found an amazing way to blend it all together, and I definitely recommend it to you guys if you just need a pick-me-up, like positive book that's gonna like brighten your week, especially when it's winter and freezing here. It's the book. So it's really, really good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you talk about, in the book, you have a story where you specifically call out a hater that you reached out to. How long ago was that? What was that experience like?
That was actually pretty early on, maybe a year after I started YouTube. No, maybe a few months. It was one of my first hater comments, and it was this person that would like leave these comments on every single one of my videos, and it was the same person. And I remember
Kind of scary.
a little scary. Also being younger, and I was like, who is this stranger that doesn't know me? And I remember I would upload videos and be like, they're not going to be able to find anything wrong with this one.
Yeah.
And they always did. And so one day I reached out to this person. I sent them a message and was just like, I'm sorry that you don't enjoy my videos. It was just a kind message, and I said like, hope you have a great day, whatever. This person then responded apologizing to me and was saying, I'm so sorry. They said she said she was having a really rough time in her life at that moment, so she was just kind of taking it out on random people on the internet. And so after that point, whenever I would get a hate comment from somebody else, this girl that used to be my hater would respond then to those people, and she would defend me. And I was just like, it really shifted my perspective on hate comments, because if you think about it, when you're really happy and you're so excited about life and you're just in a really good place, the last thing you're gonna do is try to take someone down.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. You're so happy. So if someone is trying to get at you and trying to be negative, more than likely it's because they're feeling that.
Yeah.
And so in a way, it is a cry for help. And so now I think of it as, how can I help this person? Maybe I can get them to talk to me. Maybe I can get them to open up. The last thing you want to do, though, is also be mean to them, because then it may make them feel worse. Like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it really shifted my perspective on hate comments, and also made me realize that it's not personal. Like, I would say most of the time it's never personal when someone is hating on you online. It's probably just coming from something that's happening in their lives.
Yeah.
So definitely don't let it, although sometimes it can. Like, sometimes if I'm already feeling, say it's something specific, like my hair, I'm like really not liking it that week, and then someone says something about my hair, I'm like, I know. But at the end of the day, you just can't take it personally. So I just don't respond, or if I do, then I make sure it's positive.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you took the time to like connect with another person that you don't know, and reminded her that there's a human being with feelings on the other side that's putting themselves out there, and turned her into an advocate for yourself. I mean, what an amazing story. So tell us a little bit, for anyone here who's kind of like looking to get into YouTube now, since it's such a different landscape from when you started. I mean, it's massive. There's so many tools on YouTube. What advice would you give? How would you tell someone to get started?
I would say, first off, just find whatever it is that you love. And that might change over time as well. But just really allowing yourself to kind of create your own voice online. And I think that's what I didn't do so much in the very beginning, because I felt like I had to do what everybody else was doing. And then over time, I just developed my own style, my own editing style, and just got more comfortable in front of the camera and showing my personality more, just giving yourself that permission to make it whatever you want it to be, and being consistent with it. Also, just staying passionate and motivated, and just always trying to improve. I think it's an amazing platform to really express yourself in so many different ways. And it really, like I said, it's like you can be your own director, editor. There's so much creative freedom, which is my favorite part about it, and why I don't see myself leaving the platform anytime soon, because I just don't think there's anywhere else that you can really have that much freedom to do whatever you want.
Absolutely, yeah. So I know that from your book, you're really big into writing down your goals, like physically writing them down. What's at the top of that list right now?
Ooh, the top of that list. Wow. I don't know if I have a goal list right now. I would say, I think I'm always just trying to find new ways to get better at what I do. I'm always trying to push myself and challenge myself creatively. I'm working on a few videos right now that are like a little different, and like I said, it's a little scary, but I'm just always trying to push myself to learn more. How can I get better at what I'm doing in any way, whether it's like watching videos, reading books, just learning as much as I can.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Bethany, so much for
you.
chatting. This has been amazing. And I want to open it up to you guys if you have any questions. I love that this is kind of in a nice, intimate setting, so we can share the mic or whatever works. Does anyone have any questions? Who's going to be the first? It's always the fun part. Yes.
Hi, my name is Nuri.
Hi.
I was just wondering, is there any type of style icon that you look up to, or any type of time period that you like to embrace when you're styling?
Honestly, Lauren Conrad has always been like one of my style icons because her stuff, she always wears like very casual but such cute outfits. And that's like the key to my style is it has to be comfortable, although these shoes are a little questionable today. But yeah, I just love anything comfortable. So I try to like stick to very simple pieces, just like jeans and a t-shirt, and then think of how I can dress it up, like leather jackets or like little booties. Sometimes I'm edgy and then sometimes I'm girly. I can't really like put myself in one category when it comes to fashion because honestly, it can be all over the place. I love your outfit, by the way. Ooh, those shoes.
Not being comfortable.
That's a beautiful sacrifice.
Awesome. Yes, go ahead.
My parents were actually very supportive of me starting that young, which, yeah, looking back on it now, I'm like, I cannot believe that my parents were okay with that. You know, oh, sure, like my 13-year-old daughter, like posting videos on the internet.
Is getting harassed by random people.
But my parents have always been very involved. So, you know, they would look at everything that I was posting and you know, I was like on the family computer when doing it. So they were very, very supportive. But I could imagine it is a little scary having your kid kind of doing that at such a young age. But I think they also realized what an outlet it was for me at the time because of everything that I was experiencing. And it was kind of, in a way, it was like my safe place. So they saw that, and they've always been incredibly supportive of it. Even when, you know, the hate comments would come, they were always there to support, which I'm very grateful for. And like I said, social media, it has its good sides and its bad sides. You know, it can be negative in some ways, but I think as long as you kind of stick to the positive side, then you're good. And also that's what I've worked so hard at with my channel is making it a safe place for people. Like I want my content to be family friendly, and I want it to be a place where you can come, you know, for a few minutes out of your day and just like get a laugh or smile or just feel, you know, some sort of happiness. So that's what I've always used my channel is to be kind of like that safe place. And my parents have been incredibly supportive throughout it.
And you've worked with your parents too in like a professional capacity, right? Wasn't your dad your manager at one point? Is he still?
Yeah, my dad manages me, so it's good. Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. Yep.
Do you have a team around you? I feel like for me, I'm such a control freak that I would like to be myself, and I think that it would drive me myself. But if you had to pick like a main like people around you that you think is just like you need those people, what would those people be? Like a manager? Like do you have photographers? Like just who's your team?
When I first started, I obviously had no team, and so I was filming, editing, everything myself. And then I got to a point where other opportunities outside of YouTube were coming, so obviously that made it a lot harder when videos weren't the only thing that I was working on. But I'm like you, and I didn't want anyone else kind of coming on board. I knew that I needed the help, but at the same time, I was like, no, I don't want anyone else like touching my videos. I don't want them editing them because like they're not going to do it like me. And I think it just takes time, but I think definitely opening up to the idea of having people on your team is really important because for me, like I'm still trying to find the right people, but I do have somewhat of a team that helps me with my videos now. Like I have a shooter who helps me film, which is honestly so much better because even though I can film on my own, he can do things that I can't. So having, you know, someone to help in certain areas, I think in the long run will give you time to pursue other opportunities, and it's also just a lot less stress. And I think if you find the right person over time, it takes patience because they kind of have to figure out what you like, but over time they'll start to pick it up and they'll start to know what your style is and what you want. So I think definitely if you're going to get a team, make sure it's like the same people maybe. You know, you can try people out for a while, but after a while, don't like switch it up too often, because then it's like, oh, you're working with someone new that doesn't get it. So I think having patience with whoever you're working with. But like the editing, I have someone who helps edit a little bit, but that's the thing that I still really love to do, because I think the timing of everything, it's like, it's a very personal thing. So I think opening up to the idea of having a team, it honestly helped me so much, even though for the longest time, I was like, no way, I have to do everything myself. Sometimes you really do need it, because it allows you to even be more creative, because it gives you more time to think of ideas and to brainstorm when you don't have to be the one filming and editing everything that you're posting.
Awesome. Let's go way in the back.
So aside from YouTube, what is your favorite social media platform right now?
Ooh, I use Instagram a lot. I would say that's definitely one of my favorites. And Twitter. Wow, I love them all. Well, I think definitely Instagram, for sure.
Are you big on Instagram stories?
I love Instagram stories. I love boomerangs. Boomerangs are my favorite. I love the filters. I love it all.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to what you were saying about teams, how would you navigate a situation where you're working with a person or a group of people that are really good for your business and your brand, but they're difficult to navigate for a nice?
From like a personal perspective?
Oh.
Yeah.
Look, I think personally for me, I think it depends on the person. I think that's really important, because if I, on a personal level, don't vibe with the people that I'm working with, it affects everything. So even if it is the best cinematographer or the best editor, if we don't really vibe well, or we don't get along, or there's not this flow in communication, it's personally really hard for me, because I think that affects it too. It affects your mood, it affects the energy of the work environment. So I would say that's almost just as, not in a way, it's almost just as important, I think, because a team, it's kind of like a relationship in a way. It's like you want to enjoy working with the people that you see almost every day, you know? You don't want to be like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know if, it shouldn't be stressful. So I think that if you feel uncomfortable in certain ways, it could be worth, finding someone maybe that you vibe with more. And like I said, being open to giving them more direction than you would have to give to somebody else, or being more patient with them, because in the long run, you're going to feel like it's more of a family. Because that's what I like to look for when I'm looking for team members, is people that feel like friends and family, because then it makes me even more excited for whatever we're working on. Thank you.
I feel like it's hard sometimes to remember that there's really good people out there. Sometimes you can think somebody has an incredible skill set and they're there and they're contributing, but you just have to remind yourself there's like a lot of amazing people in this world. Sometimes you just have to like fight a little harder to find them, but they're out there. Yes, go ahead.
So, hi Bethany. So as a fan of your channel, I've seen like your hauls, your room tours, your lookbooks. What are some of your favorite videos to film, to edit?
Ooh, I would say the videos that I get to go on location for are really fun. Like, I've done a lot of fashion videos that are themed or like go with the seasons, and I've like traveled for them, or like I'll find cool locations. I think I filmed at like a castle one time. Like, I just love when I can kind of make my videos like little movies. That's one of my favorite things to do, is taking kind of a basic idea or something that may have been done before, but how can I make it different? How can I make it my own based on where it's filmed, or, just something that I write into it that makes it a little bit more interesting or different. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've never done a YouTube video, but I've certainly thought about it, and I'm thinking about it. Is there a program or an app that you would recommend for someone, that's not super complicated, but also looks professional to use to edit the video?
Yeah, I would say iMovie is probably a good one to start with. I started with Windows Movie Maker, but that one, I mean, that works too. But I personally think that iMovie is I used that one for a while, because it's like they have so many like different templates and like text options, and you can make really, really great videos through iMovie, and it's super easy to use.
Do you ever shoot on your iPhone, or is it always like a professional camera?
I use a Canon for my YouTube videos, well, the main channel, but then I have for vlogs that go on the second channel and stuff like that, I have used iPhone camera, which I think is also really great quality. And I think when you're getting started, having like the top-notch camera shouldn't really be a priority. I think figuring out what you want to do and kind of getting the vibe of your channel first is more important. Because when I first started, I definitely didn't have like all of the equipment. I didn't have lighting, I didn't have mics or a very professional camera. Like I used books for my tripod, and then I just like opened all the windows and like used my family's video camera, and it worked. So I think working with what you have in the beginning, and then you'll figure out like, okay, what do I want to get next?
What is your go-to equipment right now? Like lighting setup, audio, all that kind of stuff?
I use like LED lights, which are great, and then like a Canon DSLR camera and microphone, like a Zoom mic.
Like a Rode mic?
I have the Rode
Yeah.
mic that like goes on the camera,
Yeah.
and then I have like the Zoom mic, which I'll put like underneath sometimes too. So, and then tripod, you know. So, yeah, we're
The essentials.
the essentials.
So going back to how you said your dad is your manager, how is it like working with just like like putting aside the professional and then like the personal relationship, and like kind of with friends as well? Like if you want to work with your friends and they make a good team player, how is it to keep that like professional but then yet keep away the personal level or something? I'm trying to figure out how to ask it.
Well, I think for me, it's my dad and I have always been really great at kind of separating like the business and the family. Also, it's like I don't live with my dad, so I think that helps separate as well. But I think we just know, like when it's business talk, and then we can still go back to like, you know, just being dad and daughter. And then with friends too, I think it's just you kind of know when you're working, and then you just turn it off when you're just, you know, being friends. So I think just knowing kind of when to turn it on and off. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I actually became homeschooled in 8th grade, which was around the time that I started YouTube. So that made it really easy for me to make videos while being in school. And then I also started traveling a lot more, so I would like have to take my work with me, and it was a lot of very late nights of like, okay, I got to do all this schoolwork, and then I have to like edit videos. Oh, it's 4 a.m. Cool. So it's definitely balancing, but yeah, being homeschooled definitely helped me.
Were you homeschooled all throughout high school too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I would say patience is so important, and knowing that it's not going to happen overnight, and also just kind of nurturing the audience that you do have, even if it's 3 people, you know, what do they want, and how are you, you know, giving them something that you feel is valuable and important to you. And I feel like naturally it will just grow, because for me, I honestly didn't, in the beginning when I posted my first video, I looked at the views a little bit, and I remember getting a little discouraged, and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna keep doing it. And then I focused more on the passion and just making videos and responding to the 5 comments that were there, and then it was suddenly 10 comments and 20, and then it kept growing. And I think for me, when I stopped focusing so much on how do I get more subscribers or views, that's actually when it started growing. Because if you focus so much on it and allow your emotions to kind of be controlled by the popularity of a video, you'll kind of define yourself by that, which is totally incorrect. You know, it's like silly to be like, oh, I'm worth this much because this video only got that many views. Like, it's silly, but sometimes we do it. So I think not getting caught up in that and understanding that that's not a representation of like the quality of your videos, that you can be making something that is incredible, it's just people haven't seen it yet. So don't allow that to discourage you, and just focus on the audience that you do have.
I love that advice because I think that's very applicable to all of us who have like normal 9-to-5 jobs, because if you tie your identity or self-worth too much to like the company that you're working at or the clients that you have or something like that, then it's just like a disaster waiting to happen. You really have to just focus on like the work that you're able to produce and like find pride in that. So I love that you can just focus on that and like try and let go of everything else. Cool. Anyone else? Yep.
Ooh, it depends, like different things. This is cheesy, but like just life. I have little things that I do to kind of get me excited and get me pumped for my day. Like I also spoke about this in my book where in the morning I love music. And so in the morning I'll wake up and just like blare the loudest, happiest music and I just dance around. If anyone witnessed this, I would look like an absolute crazy person because it's like I'm in a rock concert in my bathroom. And it's interesting though because it's almost like when you're jumping around and you're like dancing around, it's like you trick your mind into that. Like, oh, we're excited, and you just start feeling really happy and excited. And so I love doing that almost every morning to like get me ready for my day. And it's kind of just like being happy just because. Like that's kind of how I get into that mindset of like, I'm happy, I'm stoked, I'm so excited just for today, just because. And I think that alone helps me so much in my work, in my, people that I interact with, just being grateful just to be here. So I try to take a moment to kind of do that every morning.
Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. Thank you, Bethany, for being here. This has been amazing. It's not every day that you get to hear from somebody who has 10.5 million subscribers on how they do it. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.